Well, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on people storing up like on gold, silver, different things like that? What are your thoughts on that aspect of preparation?
I would have at least five to $10,000 worth of silver.
Uh-huh.
Gold is fine. I'm not as sold on it as I am on silver,
Hmm.
and I would save it in what are called eagles, silver eagles,
Hmm.
and they're minted by the U.S. government. They are actual money, and they're bought according to the weight of them, the value of them, and they're 99% silver.
Hmm.
And I think they're selling for about $31 a piece right now.
Sure.
I've got some that I bought when they were only $7 a piece.
Wow.
So I'm a real believer. I would put five to $10,000 in silver eagles.
Yeah.
Now the advantage to that is, and if you do it in gold, I would do it in gold eagles.
Yeah.
But the advantage to that is one is it's U.S. currency,
Uh-huh.
and two, it's a known value. It doesn't have to be assessed or determined as to its value. If you've got a bar of silver, how do you really know what it's worth? You got to weigh it. You got to determine its purity. You don't have to do any of this with silver eagles because it's known. It's a known fact.
Hmm.
So that I would purchase that. I would get out of any kind of stocks or bonds. They would be the last thing that I would have.
Sure.
Uh, I'd take that money if I had to sell it at a loss and put it in a safe deposit box before I'd keep it in bonds or stocks. The stock market right now is hyper inflated.
Yep.
There's no way those stocks are worth what they're selling for.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, that whole tree is coming crumbling down.
Sure. One of the things I see with the stock market, and somebody brought this up years ago, when the stock market all of a sudden will have like a tremendous jump day, like 100 or 200 points, and everybody's like all clapping, hey, it went way up, and but the one guy says, well, how many cars were sold? How much lumber was this? And different thing. There was nothing. All it was on that faith that this stock was going up. There was no backing behind it. There were no cars ever sold or whatever. It's just like you said, it's an inflated bubble.
Yeah, I think the true value of the stock market, Standard and Poor's, Dow Jones Industrial, rather, is probably about 1,200.
Yeah.
And I think the last I saw it was 14,000. So if that gives you any idea of what how bloated I really think it is, that's how bloated I think it is.
Sure. What about like any paper currencies? Do you think people should hold any other currencies besides American money?
No, I think if I were going to hold anything, it would be silver, not currency, not paper currency.
Yeah. What about people that are don't have enough money to do that? Would you recommend just buying a few coins here and there? Um,
Well, yeah, certainly anything you can do is better than not doing anything at all.
sure.
And I think first, though, I would probably start with food.
Yeah.
You know, you can put aside a couple of months worth of food without any great effort. And if we run into some real problems with our supply of food, that's going to be the first thing you're going to need.
Sure. And that also brings up the idea of water. Like where we live out in the county, we have to have a well. Um, how does a person, and this might be something you might know, I don't know. How does a person know how deep their water table is?
The uh, they're hydrogeologists that can tell you, or you can call up a well drilling company in your area,
Okay.
and they pretty much can tell you how deep you need to go.
Because I've seen these guys on YouTube drilling their own wells, and then they put a thing in there, and but it's some of these pump wells out there, you probably if you're at 100 foot, you're really pushing it. So now I think there's a thing called like stock wells where the water's higher, but it's only made for animals. Have you heard of those?
I've not heard that particular term. Water levels in some places might only be 20 feet.
Sure.
If it's coming out of the ground, the deeper you go, probably the purer it is.
Yeah.
But a lot of groundwater wells here in the South, at least, people use and have been able to drink them. And, that might change with environmental pollution as time goes on.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I don't think that's as big a problem uh, as the fact that it may not be there in the first place. Here in the South, you used to see a lot of wells that were just hand pumped.
Uh huh.
You know, those are no more than say 20 feet,
Sure.
and they'll suffice. The problem is that just aren't too many of those around anymore. We're all relying on water from the municipality.
Yeah.
What if nobody shows up to run the power company that runs the electricity, that runs the pumps?
Sure.
What if one day they don't get a paycheck? They decide not to go to work?
Yeah.
Well, what happens then?
Well, that's very true. And see, like we have family out in Nebraska, and one of the things that really sucks up the well water is the pivot systems out there, um, where the water really doesn't really go down and back into the ground. It just kind of hits the ground, waters the corn, and then a lot of it gets evaporated. Where unless you had the water draining onto the land and then it soaks in and then goes down. Um, we know some people out there that their wells are at 500 foot and they're running dry. And this is wintertime. This is not summertime when they're using the pivot systems. So, not to mention there's no rainwater and snow. I think last I heard in Sydney, Nebraska, they were looking at like it had to be 16 foot of snow to get back to where they need to be with their water. So that being said, if they don't get because they're not getting any snow out there really, and they're not going to get much rain. Like it was one town of all record breaking. I think they were keeping records in 1860. They said they got a quarter of an inch in 3 months, and they had over 100 degrees every single day. So that all being said, the whole thing, the water table is already so low now at 500 foot for a lot of these people, and now these pivot systems go almost to 1,000 foot down, and they pump the water up. If they don't get rain, I'll tell you what, the crops are not going to do well, and a lot of people's wells are going to go totally dry this year.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about that here or there. Yeah, that is a possible problem with the food supply in this country.
Hmm.
Yes.
And that's kind of scary. When we're out there feeding some cows during December, when we went out there to visit during Christmas time, to feed 10 cows was running, I think, $350 a week. I think it was costing. Now it's an alfalfa mix with a regular hay mix. So it wasn't all alfalfa. It was hay for a filler and then alfalfa for, I guess, I don't know, the nutrition or something. We go out to their cows and we water them, and this huge well. As soon as you put it on, you hear the whole thing start screaming, and within I don't know 10 seconds, this water and it had to have been the water coming out of there must have been every bit of 8 or 10 inches wide, just shooting out fast. So that much water is coming out from so many different pivot systems. It's just going to dry up, and like even the largest lake in Nebraska, Lake McConaughey, a lot of the ground out there is really sandy, and they almost lost the lake the last time. This time it's going down again, and if we don't get the rain like we did in Wyoming a couple years ago to refill it up, they're really going to be hurting.
Yeah, I know out west is looks like a problem developing similar to the Dust Bowls of the 30s.
Yeah,
And if that happens, of course, it'll shoot up food prices. You know, who knows where.
yeah,
And that's another problem that people generally aren't aware of is most food is trucked into cities.
yeah.
And if everybody stood in line and didn't fight for it, there's only about 3 days' supply of food that's kept in each city.
Hmm.
The rest of it is trucked in and out every day. So if we had any major catastrophe in trucking or fuel, we would have food shortages just from that.
Yeah. Um, people just don't realize. I think the last I heard of all the people that live in the United States, only like 5%, maybe less, are actually farming. Have you heard statistics like that?
Just that the percentage of people farming has definitely gone down, but
Yeah,
with mechanization of the farms, that was probably a bygone idea anyway. That was just the way it was going to be.
sure. Of course, so now we have chickens on our land here, and it's kind of neat to go out there and get fresh eggs. We can cook up eggs in the morning and stuff. I was reading an article on Mother Earth News about this one lady had really bad asthma, and she started eating regular chicken eggs off the farm, and was for basically forgetting to take their asthma medicine. That being said, there were so many pesticides and different things, antibiotics that were put into the chickens through the eggs and stuff that it was making people sick. But when they got away from all that, went to more of a natural, they weren't so sick. A lot of the things that were affecting them weren't causing the problems anymore when they went more of a natural way without all the human aspect of the antibiotics and the pesticides being put into the food.
And there are also concerns with all of the genetic mixing that's being done with plants and
Mm-hmm.
animals these days. I think that there could be some concern with that.
Yeah, it's a little scary what's happening. Um, CK, I know we covered out quite a few things. Is there anything else that you can bring up on what we've kind of talked about?
Well, I think that as a final thought, something that comes to mind is the early Christian communities banded together
Mm-hmm.
and into communities.
Yeah.
And Christianity today is fractured.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I don't know how else to explain it. It's just that any town you go to, there's 1,000 churches, but no community.
Sure.
And I think that one of the things that could help us in the future in dark times to come is if we can band together as Christians, having in common the name of Christ, and band together to help each other go through these dark times, it would certainly go a long ways toward survivalism in dark times.
Yeah.
What one person can do and put aside is much more limited than what a group of people can do.
Mm-hmm.
In any group of people, you may have some that have different instincts and uh, skills and talents than other person, and they can be combined together.
Mm-hmm.
This could be done on a community level, as such as a city or a community, but I'd really like to see Christian groups band together and prepare for hard times to come. I hope that's something we'll begin to see in the future.
Yeah, that would be definitely something that's hard out our way here too, because a lot of people that are Christian don't see what's coming down, so they're still living the life of the everyday, go to church type Christian type thing. CK, could I have you mention your books and your website? Anything else that you would like to mention?
Sure. I've got a couple of books out now. I'm actually writing another one that'll be out in about another month or so. But I've got Fallen Angels, UFO Encounter, well, Fallen Angels, Giants,
Yeah.
UFO Encounters, and the New World Order.
Uh huh.
The website for that is www.fallenangelstoday.com. And I've also got Genesis Secrets Revealed, which is a verse by verse commentary
Mm-hmm.
of the book of Genesis, the first 11 chapters. And it can be found at www.genesissecretsrevealed.com. And both books are shadowed on C.K. Quaterman, Quaterman.com. And the books are available on Amazon, and they're also available on the websites. Now, the advantage to the website is if you buy the Fallen Angels book off the website, I can actually sign it for you. But both books and the third book that's coming out shortly will be available on Amazon as well. Just do a search for C.K. Quaterman, just like it sounds, Quaterman, and my books will come up. And this new third book's coming out is going to be about demons and deliverance, the spiritual war that goes on around us. And I'm going to go into some background to it, where we're at now with it, and some of the shapes and oddities that it takes.
Oh wow.
And I'm going to talk about things like werewolves and vampires and where did they come from and was there any reality to them.